Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 23. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Brijean, the duo from Oakland, California, make incredibly detailed and shimmering dance and disco music. They've just released their new record, Feelings, and in today's episode, we talk about the record, how the band formed, and the influence of Kool The Gang. Here we go. Our guest today is an Oakland-based duo who have toured with the likes of Toro and US Girls. Their new record, Feelings, is out now. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Brijean Murphy and Doug Stewart from Brijean. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How are we today?
Doing really well. Yeah. How about yourself?
Oh, good. Thank you. Whereabouts have we caught you today or this evening, I think?
We're in Arizona, in the United States for the moment.
Beautiful. I know, I believe that you're originally both based in Oakland in California, but have recently relocated to Arizona for part of the record. Was that correct?
Not part of the record, but once the pandemic hit, we finished up a song on the record in the Bay in Oakland and then put our stuff in storage and kind of created a DIY residency while we were both off of touring. And so now we're in Arizona, headed to Canada slowly.
Quite a few different places, all very different in their kind of, I guess, aesthetics or feels, but that's very exciting for yourself. The new record, Feelings, came out last week around the world, which is, it's not the first album from yourselves, but the Walkie Talkie was, I believe, billed as a mini album. What's it like finally having that music out in the world?
Feels awesome. It feels really good. I wish we could celebrate with friends and play shows, but this will have to do.
It is a very upbeat and like I hate using the word funky because I feel as like a white man, it's just cringy for people to hear me say that. But I feel like it is quite a fun record. For yourselves, was it a fun record to make?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a blast. I feel like whenever we're making music, it just has a way of kind of transporting you no matter where you are or what mood you came into the room with. Once you hit that creative stride, it kind of brings you somewhere else. And it was really fun to be inside that world so frequently when we were working on this album.
Of course. I wonder for yourselves, during the pandemic, I believe most of the record was written in 2019, but was there a percentage that was written, I guess, post the start of the pandemic?
Yeah, there was one song called Paradise on the album. I had just gotten back from a canceled tour. We were kind of midway in Europe with Poolside and got home, was with Doug for maybe a month or two, and we just had all this time on our hands and a finished record. So we just worked on more music, and it felt like it still spoke to the themes of the album, and felt very much in the same world. So we petitioned and got it on the album.
When you guys are kind of sitting down and creating the music that the band creates, I guess, do you begin with an intention or an idea, or is it kind of more free-flowing and just tinkering and seeing what happens and then building from that?
Yeah, more the second. Sometimes, like for some of the songs on this album, we were writing from... pulling from like jam sessions that we had done with some friends, where we'd have like a really loose, open-ended idea already that we felt inspired to write over. But then a handful of the songs that we started from scratch, it's just kind of like, we usually start from percussion and either drum machine or drum beat, and add some chords, and, eventually it kind of takes on a direction, and we just get inspired from there. It's rarely, if never, happened the other way around, where we have like a specific idea that we want to achieve.
No.
Kind of let the music take us where it wants to go.
With that kind of mindset, because I know that for the album you guys improvised for hours and hours and kind of like fleshed out the songs in that way. How do you determine what kind of is then boiled down to like a few minute song? Like, how can you turn like an hours long jam into the product that we get at the end?
I think just finding a little moment, or, like Doug was saying, we start with drums and percussion almost always for our songs, and then kind of layer other thoughts on top of that. So when we're improvising, we listen back to the tapes, and our friend Chaz, who is the engineer on a couple of the songs on the album, has a really good ear for snagging some of those sweet spots and those sweet moments. So it was nice to have somebody in this session and context to be like a ref of sorts, and be like, that was the jam, this was the moment, let's take that and like see where that goes.
Totally.
And so from there we had a couple encapsulated moments that Doug and I took back and had just a writing session with the two of us, and then built the songs out of that. And typically it was like a song a day. We'd sit with the beats and like a couple simple melodies depending on the track, and then really build it into something within a day, max 2, and then it was pretty much done. Yeah,
it's kind of like just trying to like keep your ear out for that special, it might be an hour-long improvisation, but the moment that inspires the writing might only be 20 seconds or something. So just trying to be really aware of when those little things pop up and try to grab those.
Yeah. In this style.
Yeah, in this style of writing. Yeah.
Do you guys experiment? Because I feel like you've between both of you do cover quite a lot of musical ground. I know, Doug, you had a bit of a background in soul and jazz. And Brijean, I know that obviously with your percussion background with Poolside and Chaz, I guess are there times where you've ventured outside of the kind of new soul disco and have tried writing in other styles?
Yeah, go ahead with your album.
I've done a bit of writing in other styles. I released an album in the fall that's instrumental and kind of like loosely like 70s jazz inspired, but without trying to be too derivative of that. And I don't know, I think that was a very different process, but ultimately kind of similar in a way of just like trying to go into a writing session without too much of an agenda and be kind of open to whatever the moment brings. So in that way, it's pretty similar, I would say.
Yeah, but the genre was very different, pulling from like similar inspirations in some way, but a lot more jazz and experimental leaning.
Yeah, it's kind of
cinematic.
Like a different expression of some similar influences.
Doug also does scoring and like podcast work, film work. So
yeah, that stuff feels to me like, again, it's like more about trying to serve whatever the thing is that I'm writing for, rather than like trying to do this one thing that I really want to do, you know? So it feels like just try to get inspired by whatever I'm composing for personally.
Of course. As mentioned, you guys do cover quite a bit of, I guess, musical background. How did the band, or how did you two meet and decide to start making music together?
We were both playing in a few different musical groups in Oakland that were like part of a pretty tight-knit and supportive community. So we ended up sharing a bill together, playing in different bands. And from there we met, and we were dating for a few years before we started the project, and both touring in different groups, so had a lot of time apart. And kind of on a whim, we're thinking like, oh, it'd be great if we could actually tour together, and like we might just have to start our own project to do that. So we made a few demos and had a blast doing it, and I
had been wanting to put my voice to a project and step into a role as a like creative and a songwriter,
Totally.
and so that melded perfectly with a scheme to spend more time together.
Yeah, and likewise, I had largely been mostly like a backing musician, but had been studying and practicing production for a long time. So it felt like a good avenue for both of us to kind of put our weight into these different roles that we had been wanting to assume for a while.
It can always be tricky with like dating and playing music together. Was there any, just even a little bit at the start, apprehension of going in and being like, oh, please don't fuck this up?
On Doug's part.
Yeah, I was a little tentative just because I didn't want it to, I knew it could be hard. And I think doing any kind of like creative collaboration has the potential to be challenging, and communication can be difficult, but honestly we've never run into issues with it, and it's been a truly like not effortless but pretty seamless creative chemistry. I feel like it's just gone as smooth as it possibly could have, and continues to just get stronger the more we do it, which is great.
Yeah.
As you mentioned a little earlier, there are a few friends on the record. There's Jazz. I believe that there's also Tony Peppers.
Yeah.
With having these guests on the record. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Tony's amazing. I've played in Toro with Tony for some years, and Doug used to play in his band, Astronauts, Etc. Mm-hmm. And he's an amazing pianist and keyboardist, who also put out a beautiful, like, minimalist
Solo
piano album called Gestures.
This year?
Yeah. Well, 2020.
Yeah. Last year.
And so it was amazing to work with him and get to have him on the project. And he's the inspiration for one of the characters in the Hey Boy video that I animated. So it was fun.
Yeah. He's a lovely guy.
That's very cool. With obviously things are a little bit difficult in the US at the moment in terms, or everywhere, but in terms of, I guess, taking music on the road and touring. With the possible move to Canada, is there a hope that you'll be able to start playing some shows for this record and get back into to taking the album to the people in a way?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, I think the temporary relocation to Canada is not the inspiration for it, but we're definitely looking forward to performing whenever that becomes feasible, and very much looking forward to just feeling how the music makes a room move and getting some energy back. Sounds really lovely.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
It took a lifetime to find the person you want to marry. Finding the perfect engagement ring is a lot easier. At BlueNile.com, you can find or design the ring you've always dreamed of with help from Blue Nile's jewelry experts who are on hand 24/7 to answer questions, and the ease and convenience of shopping online. For a limited time, get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com. That's $50 off with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com.
With people being stuck inside, do you think it's almost a little bit better that fans can live with the record and then kind of get to have their own experience with it, and then when they come to see you, they've already kind of soaked it in quite a bit, so it's almost that little bit more special, I guess?
Maybe. I like that outlook.
Me too.
Hopefully.
It's a great perspective.
Trying to bring the positive vibes. It's yeah.
Feeling it.
Brijean, I'd love to know for yourself, you've been the percussionist with Chaz and with a few other bands. How did you get started as a percussionist?
I grew up playing percussion. I grew up in Los Angeles, and my father was a percussionist. So I learned from him and inherited my first congas when one of his best friends passed away, and then took it a little bit more seriously. And then in college, I joined a band and started playing out more and started taking every single gig that I could. If it's like, a background wedding gig or a club gig that pays nearly nothing or pays in beer and like half off food and like whatever gig I possibly could. And then the more that I took those, the more that the better my skills became, and the more people recognized that I was a musician for hire. And, it just kind of reminds people, oh yeah, so-and-so, maybe I'll call her for the gig. Or looking for a percussionist. Oh, you should hit up this person. I saw them, eating chicken for a free gig at this dive bar. Like, they might need the work or whatever it was. And eventually linked up with Chaz from Toro, and he kind of took me in under his wing, and we worked on a bunch of different projects together with the Matson 2 and a live concert in the desert, and then ended up touring with him. And then from there, it was kind of the same situation. Poolside was looking for a percussionist, and then I had Toro on my resume, and they could see me playing on the footage from concerts, and then same thing with US Girls. It just kind of, like, the more work I put in, the more opportunities for other collaborations became available.
I'd be very curious to know how many good collaborations have started with eating chicken or eating fried chicken as a catalyst. So.
An ancient tale.
It's probably a rock and roll myth. Doug, what about yourself in terms of how you got started in music, or where your began?
Yeah. Well, I started playing bass in middle school. My middle school had an orchestra and a jazz band, much more like academic route. And I had some piano lessons when I was really young that I didn't really take to, but I attribute a lot of my sensibilities to at least having music around me at a young age. And then I started getting really interested in jazz specifically, and bass in high school, and had a couple really good friends who we all had like a combo, like a jazz trio. And it just it was something special because it wasn't something that a lot of kids at my school were into. So it kind of felt like this kind of point of identity and like a part of culture that felt, special to me, and like I identified with. And so it was definitely more of an academic path. I mean, I was in jazz band in school, and then ended up going to the University of Michigan and studying jazz and contemplative studies there. And once I got to Oakland in 2009, started just doing all sorts of different types of music, like playing in a lot of just like different genres, and just kind of expanding my horizons for what I was interested in and what spoke to me. And similar to Brijean, did just every type of freelance gig under the sun. And still, I mean, up until when the pandemic happened, was, playing 5 nights a week in any kind of venue you could imagine, and in the Bay Area, and, touring as well. And I think, I mean, it's definitely like a hustle of a lifestyle, but just like I learned so much more about music actually like playing gigs and working with people and learning songs on stage than I did in music school, really. I mean, I learned a lot in music school, but it can't really prepare you for those kind of like real life, like trade experiences. So yeah, I think in a lot of ways we come from kind of different backgrounds, whereas Brijean learned more from like being around it, being around her dad and her dad's friends, and I learned more in school. But I think those perspectives end up being complementary when we go to write together, and we have a pretty good language to describe whatever it is we're going after. It never seems to be a barrier.
That's good. That's almost kind of what you want, that beautiful musical partnership, I guess. For both of you, has there Do you think it is helpful in the fact that you have been able to collaborate and experience with all these different acts and artists and types of music that help you, not in terms of inspiration, but maybe in what you said before, an experience and what you can bring back to the table for your own kind of act?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like, it makes it easier if we ever get stuck in a process. I think it's like, you know, you can like draw on something, you know, like, oh, what if we try this thing from this song that, you know, I learned in this band, or just like this smallest musical device, I feel like I
don't feel like we've ever done that.
We've never done that. That's true. Thanks for calling me out on that. But I feel like
we've never done that.
I feel like even if it's not a conversation though, like subconsciously, it's like you're always kind of pulling from
past experience.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's ever explicitly like, oh, let's steal this bass line or something like that. But I do think that learning music, like the more you really figure out the things you like in the most detail you can, then the better chance you have of making something that you'll actually like, because you have a little more knowledge of the building blocks of what makes that music, you know, be it chords or rhythms or tempos or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think past experience, between the two of us, we've played with a lot of different people and a lot of different, experienced a lot of different dynamics in bands. And so learning how you want to be treated and how to treat other people as a supporting musician, it becomes very clear the longer you're in it. You're like, oof.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I do want to do that. You know? So I think that knowledge is super helpful. And fortunately we had like a decade of experiencing that before working together.
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, my style and playing is informed by like what I've been taught from my father and from his friends and different rhythms, and like how I experimented with those and created my own rhythms and different like disco and chill wave bands. And so I think I pull from that as well, just in that living and playing and experiences are like cumulative and like feed who I am today. So I think that's applicable with like what I've learned from past experiences and how that might be present in this music for sure.
Yeah.
Would you guys be happy to talk about the playlist that you made for us?
Oh yeah.
Oh, sure.
I know the first track is Moody Man Oceans.
Yeah. We went through some of our influences, from like house to disco to jazz, and a couple like modern acts that I personally, I think both of us just like, be it their production style or their experimentation with interesting sounds and synths, overall songwriting. So I tried to add in a couple modern ones at the end, but that's kind of
It is very like rhythm, extremely like rhythm based. I'd be curious for both of you, where did the love of like rhythm and like elements of soul music come from? Like, was it something you were both like your parents played around the house when you were younger, or is it something you discovered a little bit later?
I think it's been an ongoing discovery for me. I mean, my parents played some jazz around the house, but mostly like classic rock and like Motown. I've always been drawn to like the beat and the music before the lyrics, though. That's just where my ears have always gone. And I think being a bass player first, like the rhythm and the relationship between the bass and the drums is just something that I've grown increasingly more aware of and infatuated with. So that's kind of usually what hooks me first. It's like the rhythm and then the chords and then the melody, and then maybe I'll hear the lyrics eventually. But it's probably not like that for most. I don't think most listeners experience music in that way, but
maybe, I don't know, the hip shakers, the dancers.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What about yourself, Brijean? Was it?
I think, just growing up as a percussionist, growing up with percussionists, and it's super elemental to who I am and what I play and what I look out for or gravitate towards. I love to dance also. And so that's just something natural. Not natural, but something I gravitate towards. Love some drums, love some percussion for sure.
One thing I did want to talk about on the playlist that was slightly a little bit more down tempo in context of the playlist was the Kool the Gang song that You Don't Have to Change. Mm-hmm. I feel that Kool the Gang, when I say it, there's automatically like a thing in the brain that goes to celebration or get down on it or whatever it may be. This was more, I almost kind of felt like it could have been a record from like a 2010s kind of chill wave band. Do you find that there's some really like for some bands, that there's kind of like inspiration that maybe the general public overlook when you look back on some of the acts from the past?
Definitely.
Yeah. I love that song so much. And I think I revisited that album a lot in the past, like 5 years. I had it on vinyl and was DJing a lot, DJing like soul and throwback nights in Oakland. And so that was like, I had to play that song every single time. And it's like so slow and nobody, like you could miss it so easily. But the synths on that specifically are so interesting. They're just like, they're like time travelers, you know, like to that, 70s, I don't know, the album was 72 or something, I don't know. And to like one of the other songs I think I put on was Mild High Club. Yeah. And I feel like you can hear very similar sounds. And I don't know if that band was listening to Kool the Gang or ever did, but it's just an interesting parallel that you hit. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the chords and the textures, like you're saying, the instrumentation they sound they just sound fresh today. Like they sound like they could be happening now, and you wouldn't think twice about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Brijean and Doug, thank you so much for your time this evening. We really do appreciate you coming on the podcast and your time. So yes, thank you again.
Thanks you so much for having us.
And that's our show. Thank you again to Brijean and Doug from Brijean. Their new record, Feelings, is out now through Remote Control Records. We've included a link in the show notes if you'd like to head to their store and buy the vinyl, which comes in the colours black and lava lamp. We also want to give a quick shout out to Georgia at Remote Control for helping out with today's interview. You can find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of Brijean's picks. If you like the show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday morning, with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Until next week, cheers.